In this class, we're going to look at how data are normally organized. Of course, we're not going to look at every possible method to do it, but just the main, most common, most important concepts and methods that people use to do that. Now, of course, as usual, we have to ask the question of why do we want to do that? However, I hope that you have enough experience with organizing things in general that you know why we organize things, right? And it is to be able to find stuff. I mean, just imagine having a room that looks like that. You hardly have any chance of finding anything if you're looking for it. Some people might contradict me on that, but that's the idea. However, what kind of things are we looking for when we're talking about organizing statistical data? Well, we're going to be looking for stuff such as patterns in the data. One of the things that we'll be looking for is if there is any pattern that we can try and extend from the sample to the population. Remember, when we do inferential statistics, it's hard to find any pattern in this room, but in our data hopefully we'll be able to. Outliers, things which are a little bit strange, a little bit unusual, that may need our attention a little bit more. I don't know if you can find some outliers in this picture, but we'll find some in our data later on. Errors. Now, one might think that the whole room here is an error, but again, in some situation when you look at the set of data that has been collected, you will realize that sometimes there are errors in there, and you can do that much more easily if you can organize the data. And finally, we will be able, by organizing data, to even compute some basic statistics in the sense of summaries. So, first of all, what we want to do in order to organize the data set is to clean it, right? That's the same thing as what happens with your room or your clothes. You want to clean them before you get them organized. Now, what does that mean? Well, it means things like checking the sample size. Is the sample size, in fact, of the size that it needs to be? Or did we collect too many pieces? Or do we have more than we expected? Or maybe we can have fewer than expected. In particular, we may have some missing values. A missing value is simply an observation that should be there, but is not, has been lost for whatever reason. Either it was not recorded in the first place, or was lost in some kind of translation, or it was poorly written and therefore thrown away, or whatever. There are many reasons for missing values, and what we need to do is just find out, are there some? The other thing we want to look for is for dirty data. What do I mean by that? Well, what I mean is data that looks acceptable, looks reasonable, but it's not. For instance, oh, and of course we want to correct them whenever possible. But however, it's not always possible. So for instance, let's have a look at this set of data. Now you'll notice that they all look very similar except for one. There is a number which is definitely very different from the others. The others are all in the range of 12 to 14.5. This one is 125. Now this one is very likely due to an error in not writing down the decimal place. This most likely is at 12.5. So errors like this one can be easily corrected. There are many other situations that can happen, and we will see some of them in class, but this is sort of a typical example. However, when you have something like this, well, you still have a number that looks different. But is it really wrong? Is there something wrong? Is there really a 12.5? Can it be that we have two errors, a 1 missing and a decimal period missing? Or is it that someone really had a reading that was that high? That kind of situations, it may not be possible to actually correct these dirty data and clean them up. Okay, but whenever possible, it's always something that we may want to do. Now, after we've done this, what do? We still have, even after we've looked at the data and tried to clean it up and identify possible errors, we may still have a bit of a mess. And those of you who have seen the movie The Matrix may look at that picture and get some shivers down through your spine. There is something really strange going on, and we don't know what it is, and we have to make sense of it. And that's what we're going to find ourselves in when we are looking at a bunch of data which is disorganized. So let's see how we can actually get it more organized after cleaning it.